All right. Hey, everybody. Low Faber here, Dr. Low, and welcome to my new interview series, Conversations about Music with Musicians. And I'm having so much fun doing these interviews, and I'm real glad that you're here to watch them. I want to say, as always, please subscribe to this YouTube channel if you haven't done so already, and if you like this kind of content. And also, please check out my twice weekly live streams. I'm on every Sunday afternoon at 3 p.m., every Thursday evening at 8 p.m., and those are Eastern times. And you can see the streams for free on YouTube and on Facebook. And please be sure to check out my guests' music as well. I'll be sure to post some links in the video description so you can check out their music beyond just what you hear in the interview. All right, enjoy. Hey, man, how you doing?
Hey, good, Lo. How are you?
I'm all right. Good to see you, man. How's the
Yeah, good to see.
family?
Family's doing well. Doing well. This summer, getting ready to go back to college. Others are ready to stay home and drive me insane. But comes with the territory. Are you?
My daughter, by the way, is just about to move back to New York after 9 months of, Zoom class
Oh,
in a
wow,
bedroom down here.
wow. Good
Yeah,
for
so
her. So,
she's real excited to, get away from us again.
yeah, and at her age, she's entitled. I think she and Elle are pretty close in,
Yep.
in age.
All right, my guest today is the incomparable Max Verna of Ominous Seapods, and he is one of my favorite songwriters. And I guess I need to tell a little bit of the story just in case there's anyone in the universe who doesn't know. The Ominous Seapods were a band that was very much contemporaries of God Street Wine. And we were from New York City. They were from upstate New York, but we met in the early 90s somewhere, probably at a venue, I would imagine. And we just hit it off just immediately. We got along real well for whatever reason, similarity of temperament and the dynamics of our bands were the same, and our outlook was comparable in many ways. So we ended up playing a lot of shows together, hanging out together. In 1996, I ended up getting a chance to produce an Ominous Seapods record. It was called
Yeah.
Jet Smooth Ride. And then it cut to January of 2020, about 1 year ago, and I got the great opportunity to become an Ominous Seapod for a short time as we played a couple reunion shows that the other guitar player, Dana Monteith, could not attend. And so I tried to fill his shoes, and that was just so much fun. And that was the last time that we played together.
That's right.
And when you do shows, of course there's a lot of hanging out and talking, and we got to drive together on some of the drives, and we talked a year ago January, in those drives we talked more than we ever had really gotten a chance to. Even though we'd played a lot of music and made a record together. So I guess that was maybe the germ of starting thinking it would be really nice to talk to you about some of your songs and your songwriting, which I've always really admired, as you already know.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a great drive. In fact, I thought I was just up there recently, just this past weekend. I was up in Lake Placid and Saranac Lake, and taking some of the drive that you and I took, and it was the heartland for a lot of the inspiration for the music I wrote. In particular, Blackberry Brandy.
Yeah, well, great, because that's the first song that we're going to talk about.
How convenient. Okay, good.
And so with Blackberry Brandy, we're starting off with kind of a greatest hit, right? Would you say was the most popular Seapod song? It's definitely like in the top five, right?
Yeah, it's one of the, you can't go through a night without having played it. I think that's I think the fans would not let us leave if we hadn't done that and a few others.
And can you just real briefly, that like, when did you write it? What were the circumstances? Did you write it like before the band began, or real early on, or what?
No, so it was it was into our touring. So you
Uh-huh.
know, like any other band, we started with our home place in Plattsburgh. When we were students, we were playing at the Monopole, and then when we left Plattsburgh to live in Albany, and it was probably within a year or so that I wrote Blackberry Brandy. The opening riff, I actually stole it from myself. We do a song "Keep in Mind," and there's a
Sure.
section, a
Yeah.
long section. It's just me and Ted, the drummer. And then there's a section where I kind of have it's free form. I can do whatever I want as long as I sort of stick in the key of E. And one night I played that riff just off the top of my head, the opening riff, and it kept like playing like a loop in my head for weeks afterwards, and almost to get it like out of my system cathartically, I started playing it, and then the song just kind of slid up underneath that.
So that rhythm guitar riff that Blackberry Brandy is based on came out of the jam, and keep in mind.
Yeah, like not the formal part, just the part where I can kind of make up as I go along.
Right, right. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I can't. I'll play the opening part. Um, Probably why a lot of my songs are in the key of E.
It's a
It's
great
a,
key.
yeah, especially on the guitar, right? You got your open strings, you got everything. But yeah, somehow I was in keep in mind the section where I'm doing whatever, and then eventually I just started going.
Oh yeah.
And then I just, eventually I launched in the rest of the song, but for some reason that piece just I couldn't get it out of my head.
Yeah. So I find that a lot of songs develop that way for me too. Like it's just a kernel, whether it's a
Yeah.
rhythm guitar riff or a phrase of lyrics or just one little kernel that you're like, this is something special, and I have to build on it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's good because it's so pure, right? It's not like you sit down and say, I'm going to write a song and you start to force the agenda. This is like it came to you that way instead of you kind of imposing on it.
When you wrote Blackberry Brandy, did you have a feeling like, oh, this is really great, or
You know, no, I didn't. It's
because you
hard because
never really know what you've
you
got on
don't.
your hands, right?
Exactly. So I like sometimes I thought it was so clever and so brilliant with these like crafted lyrics and everything,
Yeah.
and it just died. Some songs just didn't make the cut, and then others like another popular song is "Leaving the Monopole." I wrote all of "Leaving the Monopole" in about 15 minutes. It's
Yeah.
just the chords, lyrics. It wasn't like I had lyrics and I'm trying to match chords. It just the whole thing came together, and I thought, I almost felt like I was cheating, right? Like I should have spent more time on it on a song like that, but it became one of the pretty popular songs,
Oh, really?
and I think
Leaving the
same.
Monopole is a fantastic song
Oh,
too.
thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. And that part of leaving the monopole is that it's the chords don't they're it's sort of unconventionally put together, but when you hear it as a song and lyrics and everything, it just makes sense. And I don't know, I can't explain sort of in musical theory why it all makes sense, but it just does when you just listen to it and don't try to pick it apart. And I think that was part of like it being a 15-minute song. It was either it was going to work or it wasn't. And then the way the chords changed the mood and the lyrics following it, it just seemed to hit a chord with many other people.
Yeah. Well, it sure did. And so did Blackberry Brandy.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
there's a lot more to say about this tune, but why don't you play it for us?
Okay. You want to just do like a section of it, or how kind of break it down into?
You do whatever you feel, man.
Okay, sounds
I,
good.
you could play some of it, and then I have a live Seapods version queued up. That we could maybe listen to a little bit of
Do
that.
I have to watch that?
You do, actually. It's mandatory.
Okay, sounds good.
But
Yeah, so let me play a bit of that one. One thing too is I'm a freak for tone, and I can only play it on that center pickup. And you'll see I even have my Telecaster, when I bought it, had 2 double coils, and I had to have it routed out for that center pickup. And I think I told the guy, was like, well, he goes, are you sure you want to do that? You're really kind of, because it's a Tele Deluxe, with the Strat head and everything.
Yeah.
And he was like, he's like, you're really taking a beautiful guitar and you're going to have me route it out. And I told him, I was like, there's this one song that I have to play with that center pickup, and it was Blackberry Brandy. I was like, I can't live without it. So anyway, this will be the tone.
Okay.
Tumble down Monkey Valley alive, maiden voyage to a northern town. 6 foot of rockabye laughing at me, I'm just another creature from the sea. Well, Ron McDon gave me his 2-patty smile. He was spitting special sauce as it froze to the ground. They were 8-clad Elvises, more North Country freaks. Then I could shake a stick and know I'm home again. I'm home. I'm home again. I'm home. I'm home again. I'm home again. I'm home now. I'm home again. Parade ends at 2, it's when the night begins. When the streets empty out and the bars fill in, it's gonna be a 4-set miracle. I've been up for 28 hours. Gonna see 6 more before it's over now, but I know I'm home again. I'm home. I'm home again. I'm home. I'm home again. I'm home. Tumble down Monkey Valley alive, maiden voyage to a northern town. 6 foot of rockabye laughing at me, I'm just another creature from the sea. Well, the night ends at 9, we filled out into the streets. We'll all gather there to watch the sparks in the sky. We'll all cross this town to find a place to lay my head. When I feel that cold wind blowing my back, I know I'm home again. I'm home. I'm home again. I'm home. I'm home again. I'm home again. I'm home now. I'm home again.
Yeah, man. Well, yeah. Boy, there's so much to say about that. And I'll just start off by saying, obviously, this song could never be written in any key but E. Right? It's so
yeah.
And it's such a guitar song. I mean, you just wouldn't. Nobody's going to perform this on solo piano, right?
Right.
The contrast between the openness of that intro riff and then the tightness of that which is like the first lick we all learned to play on guitar, right?
Yeah, right. Classic blues.
And so I'm gonna play a little bit of the Seapods, playing it live, just so our viewers can see, the live energy that this song can bring. So I have to press share screen. And this is with Al Schneer from Mo.
Yeah.
At the Co-Host Music Hall a couple years ago.
forest to a northern town. 6 foot up and laughing at me, I'm just another creature from the sea.
And my voice was in rough shape that day.
Ron McDonald gave me his two-pouted smile. He was spitting special sauce as it froze to the ground. No eight-clad Elvises, more North Country freaks than I can shake a stick. I know I'm home. I'm home. I'm home again. I'm home. I'm home again. I'm home again. I'm home now. I'm home again.
All right. Well, I mean, I'm glad we watched that, because that just is to illustrate that this tune, in addition to being a good song, it just kicks ass live. It's just a great live energy.
Yeah, and lucky enough too to have Ted as a drummer on the 90% plus times I played it. He just knows how to lay it down so we can all play over the top, and you just can't beat that Hammond organ, swelling in and out to kind of fill it. So
yeah, no, it's definitely a whole band thing, and
yeah.
I guess you said that Blackberry Brandy was an example of what you called observation.
Yeah.
So you want to tell me what you mean by that?
Sure. So I have a few different songwriting styles. I try not to shy away from any particular style. One of them is just observation. I don't have any particular deep seated emotions or anything else. This one was mostly based around Saranac Lake and the Winter Carnival. So Winter Carnival comes February of every year. They have a big ice castle on Lake Flower right at the edge of town, and they have a parade they do, and the partying starts like during the day. The bars start opening at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and that's really kind of where the night starts. And even in particular, the first line of Ron McDon, there was a guy dressed up as Ronald McDonald. And this is like my first Winter Carnival, and because I was a student at Plattsburgh and we took a bus over for Winter Carnival. I remember looking, he and I caught eye contact, and I knew something wasn't right. And he had been partying so much, he, like, as he was looking at me, he just started throwing up. And that's like the whole beginning of that song is his two patty smile, his those lips, those like classic Ronald McDonald lips, and spitting special sauce.
Were there 8 like Elvis impersonators? That's what I picture when you say 8 clad Elvises.
Yeah, so that like the parade is classic. Like one of the floats was a guy dressed as Spider-Man, and he pulled his mask like halfway up, and he was just smoking and spraying what's that like just the little web stuff at people, and then there was another one, was just all the float was 2 saloon doors and 2 guys beating the crap out of each other. But then there were a bunch of Elvis impersonators in there that were weaving in and out of all the floats going on during the parade.
And I have to ask you, North Country Freaks.
Oh, yeah.
Was that a phrase that was already in circulation? People talked about North Country Freaks, quote unquote, or was that your thing?
I think it was a little bit of stealing and a little bit of promotion too. So all the kids in Plattsburgh all used to call each other freaks. It was a term of endearment. And then eventually the North Country and North Country Freaks all kind of just came into one swelling phrase that we just use all the time.
Yeah, because I mean it's a term of endearment for the Seapods audience in a way, right?
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people kind of feel that way, right?
Yeah.
And when you play it, in a live setting like that, it's like we're all North Country Freaks. There's such a feeling of community about it. And then and then when the chorus is "I'm home, home, a home again," there's this great feeling of really all being together. We're home because we're all together in this at this live show. I think that's some of the magic of it for me. And as a songwriter, at least as far as I know, you can't calculate or plan to make that kind of magic, right? It just kind of
Exactly.
happens.
Yeah, because it's not the songwriter's magic. I
Right.
mean, as much as I put pen to paper and took these guitar chords and put it all together, all I did was kind of like push the bird out of the nest. I don't own the feelings that people have around that song, and then even sometimes it's a slice in people's lives. If it was a band that they liked, and it was a moment in their lifetime, it'll pull up emotions in people. It's something I couldn't set out to create. It's sort of how they attached to it, in the same way I attached to Jimi Hendrix or the Grateful Dead or something like that. It's my emotions towards what those songs did for me. So going back to our how do you know if a song's gonna be successful? You just gotta put it out there and see how people take it, and hope it doesn't bomb.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to a song that is in some ways the opposite of Blackberry Brandy, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Blackberry Brandy is a greatest hit. This one is little known.
Yeah.
And well, do you want to introduce it and tell us
Yeah.
about its origins?
Sure. So She Makes the Journey. One of the first songs I wrote was Stephen O'Rourke, and that was a sort of a cult favorite, especially when we were students at Plattsburgh. And then I kind of expanded a little on Stephen O'Rourke and sort of developed this storyline around it, and came up with She Makes the Journey. And I feel like I might have stole some of the concept of this, like a almost like a shaman kind of thing with it, and a healer, but sort of gave it its own life in a different direction.
Stephen O'Rourke is a fictional figure that is from your imagination.
Well, Stephen O'Rourke was actually a real person, who was, he was a great flamenco guitar player and a good blues player in Plattsburgh. But and he used to come to our shows a bunch. We play the songs and people would force him up on stage. And eventually he was like, I got to stop seeing you guys play because I just want to sit in the corner and have a few drinks. So he was a real person, whatever.
There's a real person that you wrote this like song cycle about. Does he know about it? I mean,
yeah, he does.
That was weird.
He probably doesn't know all the other songs. He's traveled all over the place. I have no idea. At one point, he was living in a one-room cabin way up in the mountains of Colorado. That was probably the last time I saw him, and that was 25 years ago. But yeah, I mean, it started with him, but it really was not meant to be biographical at all. I just kind of stole his name and a bit of the mystique of him being a flamenco and blues player, and then just ran with it. So I probably owe him some kind of copyrights infringements, or I don't know what. But
so you said you felt like this song felt in the was from the category of storytelling as opposed to observation. When it's storytelling, I assumed that meant that it was fictional, but now I know that Stephen O'Rourke is real. So
yeah. So, but this, by the time I got to She Makes the Journey, this is complete fiction.
Complete fiction.
I mean, this is like, it starts with his daughter trying to find him, and it kind of almost, it's like this like eye-opening, enlightening moment where she's sunburnt, she's like at her wit's end, and like he just appears, and then there's this sort of back and forth a little bit, like she's trying to get her words and so forth. She doesn't quite know who he is when their interactions start. Then she figures out who she is, and then she explains that she has tried to come to find him, and he's all of a sudden gets a little hands off about the whole thing and disappears. So and then there's like, what was it her hallucinating because she was out in the desert? Did it really happen? And there's a lot of like unanswered questions in this, which some of the other songs fill in that, but in this one in particular, that's sort of where the listener is left with. So it is totally fictional, not at all based on any kind of stories from Stephen O'Rourke himself.
You know, when I listened to this, which was just the other day, because this song is new to me. I mean, I've played, as you know, many of the Seapods songs, but not all of them do I know. And this one was, I didn't know at all until you suggested it when we were planning this interview. And when I listened to it for the first time, you know what really came into my mind? The early Who, before Tommy, you know, some of the stuff where he's like, some of the songs that are very much like sort of just tilting towards rock opera, like A Quick One While He's Away. You know, there's a story there. It's a little hard to tell exactly what's going on, you know.
Yeah.
You have this sense of a story and characters and images, but there's not necessarily a sort of clear narrative like this happens and this happens and this happens, right?
Yeah. And it almost by design, you know, I think I didn't necessarily intend to write an elusive song, but I think as I was writing it, the feelings that I got were to be more metaphoric than to be very specific about a storyline.
Well, you want to play it for us?
Yeah. Let's give it a whirl here.
Right, on the acoustic guitar. Yeah,
it's not only a bit of an epic song, but it's an epic song to play. Remember, so let's. It also, I spent a lot of time with my finger picking and everything, and this has a little bit of all of that, a couple of jazz chords and other things in there that, again, just suited the song. There was no intention of I have to interject this. It's just as the flow of the song came on, I was writing it. These things just made sense. So here we go. So She Makes a Journey. On her lobstered skin, a shadow was cast, an ointment presented salvation at last. Stephen, she muttered, he was aghast. You are the reason I've made this pass. The ointment seeped in, the floor spun around. Her eyes grew heavy as her body hit the ground. No sight or feel, she only heard sound. Stephen's every word became profound. Stephen, why did you go? The answer to this I've journeyed to know. Your town made of me a celebrity. I fled you all for 20 years. Had to leave behind my family, 'cause I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. It was me you all sought, solving problems of simple thought. Now I'm gone, never to return, sure to be the death of me. Stephen, I am your daughter of 28 years. I I've come now to take you home. Now we can care for you well. With this notion he cleared the ground, removed a poisonous cactus. He ate the roots. He lay down to die, cracked open the sky, left his body there to turn to sand. The ointment wore off. As the sun came unset, she realized her father had fled again. Shortly after they met.
Yeah, man. Well, there is a lot going on in there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of key centers, right? You've got A major, and then you've got some G, you've got some C, and then what really blows my mind, maybe this is just me, but what really blows my mind is when you got that C and then you start moving the bass down C, B flat, A, right? And then it's F, G to C.
F, B flats, F, B flat, C.
Oh, B flat. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
But still all with that drone C on top.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Right. And.
Yeah.
And then is it?
It's like a, what is it? A,
sharp 11.
You know, it's almost just a B over B.
Oh,
over
B
A.
over A. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I hit an open E just to kind of.
Okay, and then it's like E over G sharp. Yeah. And then just nonchalantly back into.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that sequence, it really, it's not a hook. It doesn't repeat. It just really seems like a transition between one half of the song and another.
Yeah.
You know,
it sets like almost a dream, because you have like the what is it's like countering. So I have it's bum 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 bum, and then so it kind of, if you just play those parts, it's sorry.
Nice voice leading
going down. Yeah, and just that way, it's like you've got a bit of a dream sort of section of things are kind of pulling in two different directions. You don't quite know where it's going to wind up, you know.
And you know, I find that you can take material that is very pedestrian, you know, but that's your meat and potatoes throughout the song. And then all of a sudden has a new life and interest of its own because it's been, you've gone somewhere.
Yeah, and it's almost like a landing pad. Like if you felt like you were sort of like caught up in a whirlwind of something, and you need something to grasp onto. As soon as those chords come in, like you've landed back on something more stable and comfortable at that point.
At the very end section, you're back accentuating the A root, but now with a minor, and this, right? What does that remind me of?
King Crimson or something like that. Or yes, there's like something very Englishy.
It's Paul Simon Scarborough Fair.
Okay, maybe that's it. The way you played it, something struck me right away. That was.
But it's beautiful, meaning because we've had that A major. It's been A major the whole song, and now still A, but we're in a whole different world.
Yeah. It has a little sadness at the end there.
Not too much sadness, it's not super melodramatic, right?
Right. It's sadness, but with the ringing notes in there, it's still uplifting in its own way.
You sing this beautifully too.
Well, thank you.
Did the Seapods play this live? We
on and off. Like there's so many people that are creating those the archive tapes out there, and I'll see set lists. I'm like, oh wow, she makes the journey. We happen to have played it, so we played it rarely. And sometimes we would play the 3 Stephen O'Rourke songs together that when they were written as a trilogy, or sort of eventually written as a trilogy, that we would sometimes play all 3 of those together. But yeah, we didn't play it a lot.
I would think it has its difficulties as far as the Seapods song.
Yeah, you can't sandwich that between
bong hits and porn.
Yeah, and then and then just launch into something else. Exactly. It would almost be the kind of thing where if we had like an early, if we did the 2 sets and the first set was meant to be, somewhat a little laid back and we have a lot of songs like that, it would fit in there well. You could not just sandwich it into like an average Seapod set, not without.
I think it's something that we both struggled with in our bands, and I guess that all bands struggle with to a certain degree. Is what kind of band do you want to be, right?
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of choices out there, but you have to commit to something. You can't be everything. Right. It's hard to be the band that plays She Makes the Journey and the band that plays Bong Hits and Porn. And those are both good bands, but it's hard.
Yeah. It very much so. And especially when you're sort of up and coming, right? And you want to grab, there's a lot, maybe some new people in the audience. You just want to keep grabbing them and grabbing them and grabbing them. There's just a lot of songs that is, especially if you're doing, when we used to tour the whole country, we try to do our greatest hits, right? We're in front of a whole new audience and everything like that. And you never know. And you almost don't want to take that risk, right? Of the whole back catalog.
Well, but then on the other hand, you've got the real diehard fans, repeat customers who have heard Blackberry Brandy and Leaving the Monopole 10 minutes time, and they just care about hearing the really obscure stuff.
Yeah.
They're just in it for the rarities, and so you got to think about them too, because they're your loyal supporters. So
yeah, and sometimes I had a hard time reading audiences, because even when I was in the audience and I was watching a band, just because they played something that wasn't getting me up out on the dance floor or getting me to hoot and holler didn't mean I didn't like it.
Right.
Sometimes somebody. I remember. So, I remember seeing Willie Nelson and he played Rainbow Connection and fucking floored me. For me, that was the best song of the whole night. But people were like yawning. It didn't mean they didn't like it. It was just like everyone had time to relax. And again, I can't compare myself to Willie Nelson, but if you're just reading that energy and radiant energy coming off the audience, you may not be reading them right.
Right.
You know,
That's a really good point. But there is a tendency to do that,
yeah,
and particularly when you're younger.
yeah, yeah,
You
exactly.
know, maybe it changes as we grow up a little bit. Um, well, speaking of growing up and wisdom and introspection, uh, the last tune that you're going to play is, as I've told you many times, one of my favorite songs by anybody. And this is a song that I perform a lot in my live streams and shows, and I love to hear it and to play it. And so, theme for another enlightened rogue. What do you want to say about the writing of this one?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's one of the songs I almost feel like I didn't write. I feel like I just pulled it out of somewhere, and it almost as if I was like a conduit. Yes, I put pen to paper. I put the chord progression together and everything else. But it's taken on a life of its own, even in my own head. I mean, there's specific lyrics in there that are that speak to how I felt at the time. Specific lyrics about people in my life that are still a part of it. Um, but as a whole, I feel like it's if I hadn't done it, somebody else would have kind of thing. It's hard to describe that.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily feel like I own it. It's really kind of taken on a life of its own. And this is one of those songs we didn't play a lot, but we were joking recently about the fact that audience members used to call for it all the time, and we never played it. But now that we're doing these reunion tours, we're a little bit older, and we have that all the people that want to hear those obscure songs and everything. This is always kind of on that list.
I remember when we were choosing songs for Jet Smooth Ride, and you guys were by no means convinced that this is one of the ones that should go on the album.
Yeah, I'm glad you stuck with it.
I mean, I was like, this one has definitely got to be on the.
Yeah, and that's why you need a good producer, because we couldn't see the forest through the trees or the field through the trees, and you did. You had a little more high level view on what would have done well, and that one came off great. And again, I not because I wrote it or anything, but the arrangement, the recording, the sounds, everything, that one came off really well.
I think it's the recording creates a vibe and a sort of texture that is real hard to put over when you're a bar band. Because it's very much based on there's nothing too attention grabbing about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of there. It doesn't grab the listener and say, come on in.
Right.
It's just there for you. But it'll reward the listener if they do come in, right?
Yeah, it has, to me, it has two things that it does. It like slowly elevates you, almost like you're sort of being bubbled up a little bit, and then it has this kind of cruise piece to it where you're just like driving on an open highway with the windows down and no responsibilities. And maybe it's the way that the instrumentation was played, but it just has that. I'm speaking of the recording. It has that ability to just kind of pick you up a little bit, move you forward, and like you're cruising, and then just let you be during that, and doesn't do much more than that, So,
I noticed I've talked with TP about playing it, and there's a sort of zen to playing this song where if you try to push it too hard, it won't work.
Yeah, it pushes you back.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's like, again, having a life of its own. It's like, no. You don't push me too hard, fellas.
Let's listen to the Jet Smooth Ride version.
Yeah, let's do that.
If that's okay. So
Definitely.
we did this back I guess 24 years ago. That's
holy crap.
That I shouldn't have said that. Okay, this is from the album Jet Smooth Ride, track 4, Theme for Another Enlightened Rogue. The bass is really like the lead instrument for all these verses.
I was going to say that.
I can't be told that it's all been done. I can never embrace what's already gone. I'm not afraid of this old world anymore, but still have lots to learn. Fucking far from being the Messiah. To you I would never lie. I've hit the pavement pretty hard now, so little could hit me harder. Now I'm hypnotized by things that are so obscure. I can't be told that it's all been done. I can never embrace what's already gone. rotates the globe, but the sun
love how that line comes out of the solo. You know, round and round it rotates. We're still just going on.
Yeah.
Can help me see what's inside. Of all the women that I've loved, I can still see their traveling eyes. Their minds set on faraway places, only one remains behind. She's a queen, could turn a soldier into a king. A man of petty ransom, but his heart knows how to sing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of subtleties in there, and I love how you pointed out a Big TP's bass playing. It's like other than the vocals, that's the most active instrument in
Yeah.
there, and it's brilliant. I remember a couple times listening to it, preparing for gigs and stuff like that, and really honing in on the Big TP's bass playing. Just great in there.
All the other instruments have a lot of restraint.
Yes.
Even your leads, you know, even when you're the lead, quote unquote, lead guitar player, what you're doing is so sort of simple and sweet. It's almost just, it's sort of just part of the environment, right?
Yeah, I have a funny memory of that because we had set like a tiny little amplifier next to the sound the mixing board, and I was in the room with you and Malcolm's mixing, and he wanted me to play one of the solo parts over again. And he had a reason why, and he he eventually he goes, do me a favor, Max. He goes, could you try breathing? And I realized I was like grasping and holding my breath throughout this whole line. And then I did, and I was like, oh my God, like it made all the difference in the world. And I think I even sort of went back and said, can we just do some of those over again a little bit, just so I can actually breathe and let the song breathe, let my guitar playing breathe, and paying in particular attention to kind of listening to the vocals, and especially the lyrics that are being said, and try to do almost a call and response with the lyrics themselves. And it almost took Malcolm to he's like, dude, don't get so caught up in your guitar playing. Think about the song, breathe, and then play. So it felt like it made a bit of a difference in that.
That's Malcolm Springer, who was recording engineer and
awesome.
mixer for that album and for God Street Wine's Red. Some of my favorite lines in the song, I've hit the pavement pretty hard now, so little could hit me harder. No amount of empty bottles could help me see what's inside.
Yeah, I think a lot of people could probably relate to that, but certainly, yourself, anyone who's been on the road for a long period of time, you call it hitting the pavement.
Yeah.
And you just keep hitting it and hitting it and hitting it, and realize there's not much else that can hit you the way that does, the ups and downs and everything.
There is a thing where you start thinking that this alcohol has the answers for me.
It's true.
It seems so stupid when you just say it like that, but
yeah, I've had a love-hate relationship with alcohol and some drug use, and I think that for some people, it can spark inspiration. It can spark a lot of things. I think as time went on, though, if there wasn't a spark, I felt like it dulled my senses, and it made everything a little too dull. So yeah, there were no answers in there. It was like more escape than actually finding anything that was worthy of thinking through and writing about.
I love how you just drop the F word in there.
Oh,
And we're in this really peaceful vibe.
yeah.
But
Well,
then it's just, I'm pretty fucking far from being the Messiah. It's conversational. It, it just
yeah,
feels
you know,
natural.
and it's so that my when my nieces and nephews grew up, they'd be like, "Oh, Uncle Max, he has an explicit song on Spotify."
And then their traveling eyes. Love that.
Yeah, that had almost like a double meaning, right? Again, being on the road, like you meet a lot of you're transient. You're meeting a lot of transient people, and um, you know, uh, the traveling eyes was sort of like you're here, but you're looking elsewhere. That it's kind of always looking for that next big thing, and it can get a little lonely, honestly, if you don't have a specific home base, and you're just in and out of different towns meeting all sorts of different people, and maybe you make a connection with somebody, but sometimes those people are also looking in the distance of like what is the next thing, and that's sort of what the traveling eyes, the eyes for travel kind of thing.
Now, you wrote this as a man in your 20s, right?
Yeah.
Single, on the road with a rock band. Uh, now we're all grown up. We have families, and we have different perspectives. Does this song speak to you any differently now than when you wrote it?
I get asked a lot, do you miss the road? And my answer is always no. I miss the music. I miss the
Yeah.
camaraderie. I miss a lot of that stuff, but I don't really miss, I could never kind of go back to all that. But the other lyrics in that song were, I sort of eventually met someone, and we made a really great connection. And, then I kind of felt like this is what I was looking for, you know.
She's a queen, could turn a soldier into a king.
She's a
A
queen.
man of petty ransom, but his heart knows how to sing, which is a great example of a line that has too many syllables, and you just fit them in.
I do. I
Right?
do tend to do that. I try not to impose poetry, but I couldn't say what I wanted to say without getting all that in there. Yeah.
No, but I think it's so effective because if the vocal rhythm is too cookie cutter and too repetitive, it becomes trite, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. And I spend a lot of time on phrasing and lyrics, and I've learned ways to fit things in that ordinarily shouldn't fit. But yeah, those I do. So I wordsmith a lot. Sometimes if I have too many rhymes, I'll say, you know what, I can't keep rhyming in a song
You're
and stuff like
rhyming.
that. Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like then like you said, it gets that cookie cutter part of it. But yeah, with some of the lyrics in that song, I did look for the right way to phrase something, and if it, even if it didn't fit, I would make sure the phrasing was either I'd start the line a little early and phrase it and twist it around, or something to that effect. But yeah, a lot of syllables to try to fit in on that end part, but I couldn't do it any other way without that specific set of lyrics.
One thing that you and I both have in our, background and bag of influences is a love of bluegrass.
Oh yeah.
And I hear the bluegrass in this song and in Blackberry Brandy. And I mean, in some of your songs much more overtly, like I guess Adirondack Blue is the obvious one that comes to mind.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
uh, but I really hear it in the just the melodic concept in this one, both in your vocal and your lead guitar.
Yeah, I mean, bluegrass was it was something I liked before I wound up in Plattsburgh, and oddly enough, there was a great bluegrass scene in Plattsburgh. Really great dobro player, Junior Barber, the Gibson brothers, who are now world renowned, and there was a few other just sort of small bluegrass bands that used to come up from Keene and Keene Valley up to Plattsburgh and play. So it was around me everywhere, and I loved it. Um, so I spent some time learning how to play some banjo, a little guitar, and it absolutely made its way into the music, into my writing, and everything else. It's it can be a bit addictive, especially with how clear some of the melodic lines are, the harmonies,
Yeah.
specific harmonies that are specific to bluegrass music can just they can send chills up your back sometimes when they're done so well. So yeah, that's all in there for sure.
Well, I think that it's it's an interesting journey,
Yeah,
uh, and it's still going, and I hope that we get to jam again. Before too much longer, maybe over the summer, but we'll just have
yeah,
to see.
absolutely.
Uh, but I really appreciate getting to hear, your take on some of these songs, and obviously there's so many more that we could talk about.
Well, if we ever get
Uh,
if we ever get a phase two, we can reverse it. I'll get to interview, and we can interview you, and we can talk about some of that stuff.
sure, I mean, we could talk about the Seapods and God Street Wine a lot too.
Yeah, yeah. Some things we can say, and some things we can't. Right.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, but thanks for spending this time and talking. I really
Yeah. Hey,
appreciate it.
listen, this was great. Thank you so much. A nice little journey into the past, and I love connecting with you musically. It's nice to have someone that I feel like you and I were cut a bit from the same fabric, a little bit of the same background in music, and the love of the same type of music and everything. So this has been great.
Right on, baby.
Excellent. Good to see you, bud.